The maintenance tunnel was too narrow for a human to stand upright. Léon Valois kept his back bent and his breathing shallow as he worked the plasma conduit access plate. The air tasted of stale incense and burnt ozone. The green emergency strip above him cast his hands in the color of sickness. He palmed the signal ghost from its pouch against his chest. The device was warm. It felt alive against his fingers, a small deception wrapped in metal and ceramic. He slotted it into the junction box with a practiced motion. The device seated itself with a soft click. No visible change, no telltale light. It simply disappeared into the conduit housing, already drinking power from the ship's grid. A footstep echoed from the tunnel entrance behind him. Léon did not freeze. He kept his hands on the open panel. He reached for the breaker tool with his left hand and turned his head just enough to see the silhouette framed against the corridor light. Inquisitor Valdus stood at the entrance. Tall and gaunt, his pale blue skin looked almost gray in the emergency lighting. His 4 eyes tracked across the cramped space with the patience of a predator who did not need to hurry. "Your efforts are noted, brother." Valdus's voice carried a warmth that did not reach his eyes. He touched the silver amulet at his throat, a compulsion, a tell that Léon had catalogued on day 3. Flawed but earnest, that is how the divine see repentance. Léon lowered his gaze. He pressed his free hand flat against his chest. The posture of submission was impossible to forget. He had drilled it for 6 months before this insertion. "Thank you, Inquisitor. I serve the truth as it is revealed to me." Valdus nodded. The motion was slow, approving. Léon kept his face still and his pulse steady while his mind ran the calculations. He was the only human agent to reach this depth in a decade. The last operative had been caught on a Vareth orbital platform. The extraction team found pieces of him scattered across 3 compartments. Léon had read the mission report twice. He had memorized the details so he would not repeat them. The staging grounds, that was his mandate. Find where the Vareth Empire was massing its fleet. Pinpoint the assembly yards, the fuel depots, the launch windows. Give Captain Belkacem a target set she could strike before the Vareth reached human space. A vibration ran through the deck plates beneath his knees. Deep, resonant, a change in the ship's pressure, a shift in the gravity drive's harmonic profile. Léon had felt the same sensation during his training in Sol system, the signature of a vessel dropping out of fold space. Valdus turned toward the tunnel's far end. Another corridor, another ladder, another deck. But his posture shifted. Something in his shoulders changed. He was expecting this. "Come," Valdus gestured with 2 long fingers. "The viewport in the observation bay. You should see where we are going." Léon secured the conduit panel. The signal ghost was in place. It would broadcast a false return on every scanning frequency, painting the righteous path as a cargo hauler with a full manifest of industrial components. No military signature. Nothing that would draw attention from the border patrols that humanity had seeded across the outer systems. He followed Valdus through the narrow corridors. The Vareth ship was utilitarian, bare metal walls, harsh lighting, every surface marked with the spiral sigil of their faith. The universe was a climb toward purity. That was the doctrine. Every species either ascended or was pruned. They climbed 2 ladders. The observation bay was small. A single wide viewport dominated the far wall. The stars were wrong when Léon entered. They were not moving. They were static, fixed. The ship had dropped out of fold space at the edge of a system. And there it was. Léon stopped breathing. The structure filled the viewport. It was not a fleet, no formation of warships, no orderly grid of hulls waiting for deployment. It was a hollowed-out asteroid city, a chunk of rock so large it had its own gravity well. The surface was a lattice of construction cradles, dozens of them. Each cradle held the skeleton of a vessel in progress. He counted the cradles without moving his lips. 17, 18, no, 23. 23 hulls under construction. The scale was beyond anything the briefing had prepared him for. Each cradle could fit a dreadnought. Each dreadnought could carry enough firepower to crack a colony world. The Vareth were not searching for humanity. They knew where humanity was. They were building a war fleet in secret, a fleet large enough to scour entire sectors. Léon felt the cold weight of the signal ghost against his chest. A lie, a small lie in a vessel full of larger ones. His mission had just changed. Observation was no longer sufficient. Active interdiction was required. He needed to send a transmission. He needed to tell Captain Belkacem that the window was closing faster than anyone had predicted. Valdus placed a hand on his shoulder. The touch was light, almost gentle. Léon felt the pressure of 4 long fingers through his coverall. He did not flinch, he did not pull away. "Welcome to the Vanguard's rest, brother." Valdus's voice was soft, almost intimate. The silver amulet caught the starlight from the viewport. "Here you will learn the truth of our cause." Léon looked at the structure, at the cradles, at the bones of warships taking shape in the void between worlds. He could not leave this place through normal channels. The chant hit him before the light did. A deep, pulsing vibration that lived in the stone itself. Hundreds of voices, male and female, rising and falling in a cadence that felt older than language. Léon Valois stood in the corridor and let the sound pass through him. It was not music, it was architecture. The Vareth built their faith into everything. Inquisitor Valdus walked ahead, his silver amulet swinging against his chest with each stride. The torchlight caught the 4 eyes in sequence, first the upper pair, then the lower. A staggered blink that Léon had learned to read as satisfaction. "You feel it," Valdus said. He did not turn around. "The chant," Léon kept his voice low, submissive. "It is difficult not to feel. It is the great harmony, the voice of our purpose made audible." Valdus stopped at a junction where the corridor opened into a wide gallery. Stone pillars lined the space, each one carved with figures in ascending postures, kneeling, rising, standing, soaring. Every species occupies a station in the cosmic order. Some are born to lead, some are born to serve. The weak do not resent this arrangement. They find peace in it. Léon looked at the carvings. The ascending figures had 4 eyes. The ones at the bottom had 2. "The universe is a flock without a shepherd," Valdus continued. "We are the shepherd. It is not cruelty. It is responsibility. The strong must guide the weak because the weak cannot guide themselves." He turned and fixed Léon with all 4 eyes. The gaze had weight. "You have been given a great honor, witness. Your species walked in darkness. You rejected order. You hid from the galaxy." A pause. "But you are not beyond redemption." Witness, the word sat in Léon's chest like a stone in his shoe. He had been assigned a title, a function, a living trophy. He tapped his ring finger once, twice. "I am grateful," he said. The words tasted like ash. Valdus smiled. It did not reach his upper eyes. The maintenance bay was 3 levels down and smelled of ozone and recycled lubricant. Léon had been assigned to shadow a low-caste technician named Octavia for the duration of his orientation. The Vareth did not trust him with anything critical. They trusted him with her. She was smaller than the others, paler. Her cranial crest lay flat against her skull, a posture of permanent deference. She moved like she was trying to take up as little space as possible. She was replacing a filtration node in the environmental control system when she dropped the spanner. It clattered against the deck plates and rolled toward Léon's boot. He bent down and picked it up. He held it out to her, handle first. She stared at him. The silence stretched. The chant from the upper levels bled through the deck plating, distorted and distant. "You picked it up," she said. Her voice was quiet, uncertain. "It was at my feet." "You are a witness." She said the word like it was a rank. It was. "You do not retrieve tools for technicians." Léon held her gaze. Her lower eyes were wider than her upper ones. That meant something in Vareth body language. He had studied the charts. He could not remember what. "The tool was needed," he said. "It was faster to retrieve it than to wait for you to walk around me." She took the spanner. Her fingers brushed his palm, brief and soft. She looked away first. Valdus found them an hour later in the main data shrine. A circular room lined with crystalline storage nodes that pulsed with soft blue light. The shipyard manifest lived here. Léon could feel it in the air pressure, in the hum beneath his feet. The signal ghost was warm against his ribs. He had planted it in the junction box 3 decks up, but its reach extended through the colony's data conduits. The device was a parasite. It drank power and leaked false returns, but more than that, it listened. "This is the heart of our work," Valdus said. He stood at the center of the shrine with his arms spread. The amulet caught the blue light. Every hull, every gun, every soul in service to the great shepherding. Léon counted the nodes, 43. Each one represented a data cluster. Each cluster held schematics, supply chains, crew assignments. "You will stand here tomorrow," Valdus said. "You will be presented to the shipwrights. They will see you and know that even the lost can be found." Léon nodded. His hand rested on his chest, over the signal ghost. Valdus studied him. "You have questions." It was not a question. "I am still learning," Léon said. The theology is vast. Valdus touched his amulet. The gesture was unconscious. Ritual. Ask. Léon chose his words carefully. If the strong must guide the weak, what happens when the weak refuse guidance? Valdus's upper eyes narrowed. His lower eyes remained flat. Then they are lost, he said, and the strong must act to prevent their loss from spreading. He said it the way a doctor described a necessary amputation. Léon nodded again. His ring finger tapped once against his ribs. That night, alone in a cell that smelled of mildewed stone, Léon accessed the data stream. The signal ghost pulsed against his skin, and the shipyard manifest flowed into his palm display. He read it standing up so the bed would not creak and betray his position. 500 warships. The numbers scrolled past. Dreadnoughts, cruisers, support vessels. A fleet larger than anything humanity had deployed in 200 years, nearly complete. The last figure was a completion percentage, 94. 94%. He scrolled to the attachment, a destination code. Translated through 3 layers of encryption, the signal ghost's decryption suite stripped the layers one by one. Procyon. Léon stopped breathing. Procyon was a red dwarf 32 light-years from Earth. It had no habitable planets. It had 1 asteroid belt and a single dead rock that had been colonized during humanity's outward expansion. That colony had gone silent during the catastrophe. No signals, no survivors. It had been declared lost. The Vareth were going there. They were looking for something. The door chimed once, quiet. Léon killed the display and slid the ghost into his pocket. Enter. The door opened. Octavia stood in the threshold, her crest low, her hands empty. "Why did you pick up the tool?" she said. Léon studied her. She was not here to report him. She was here because she could not stop thinking about it. "I told you," he said, "the tool was needed." That is not an answer. He considered the gap between them, a witness and a technician, a predator and prey, but she was not looking at him like prey. She was looking at him like he was the one who did not understand the rules. "It is my nature," he said. She stepped into the room. The door closed behind her. The chant from above filtered through the stone, muffled and eternal. "Your nature," she repeated. She said it like she was testing the taste of the words. "You are kind because it is your nature." "Yes." She looked at him for a long moment, then something shifted in her face. Her crest rose slightly, not submission, not dominance, something between. "They will break you for that," she said quietly. "Your kindness, it is a vulnerability. They will find it and they will pull it apart until there is nothing left but obedience." Léon felt the weight of her words settle into his ribs. She was not afraid of him. She was trying to protect him. He met her eyes. "You came here to warn me." "I came here to understand." She stepped closer. Her hand brushed his arm, brief, soft, the same way she had touched his palm when she took the spanner. "Now I understand. You are not a witness. You are a ghost." She left before he could answer. The door closed. The chant continued. Léon stood in the dark with the signal ghost warm against his chest, and the destination code burning in his memory. Procyon. The lost colony. The Vareth were going to find something there. And he had 94% of a fleet between him and the truth. The carrier signal pulsed against his eardrum like a second heartbeat. Léon pressed his palm flat against the wall of the communications alcove and felt the warmth of the concealed ghost device through the paneling. 2 minutes of burst transmission window. That was all the signal ghost could buy him before the Vareth monitoring stations noticed the anomalous spike and traced it back to this junction. He tapped the ring finger of his left hand twice against his thigh. Then he began. Coordinates first, the hollowed asteroid, the 23 dreadnought hulls, the construction timeline he had pieced together from maintenance logs and overheard prayers. He fed it all into the ghost's compression buffer. The device translated his data into a pattern that looked like random thermal noise to Vareth sensors. The words appeared in his mind as Safia's voice would read them later. He trusted her to understand what he could not say aloud. The transmission fired, a flicker of warmth through the device, then silence. Léon held his breath and counted. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The response came as a whisper of blue light. Safia Belkasem's hologram flickered into existence above his palm. She looked older than he remembered. The cybernetic eye glowed a faint amber in the dim alcove. She was chewing the inside of her cheek. You sent coordinates, she said. No greeting, no warmth. Confirmed we have them. Léon nodded. You need to move. They have more than we predicted. The scale is. Not why I'm here. Safia cut him off. Her voice was flat and hard. Procyon, there's something in Procyon's third orbital band. He stared at her. What something? Ancient human from before the isolation. She paused. The hologram flickered as the ghost device struggled to maintain the link. It's an AI defense grid, still active. If the Vareth push into that system, they will find it. They will wake it. The cold dread settled into his stomach like a stone. How do you know this? Because I sent the team that found it 20 years ago. They did not come back, but their data did. Safia's jaw tightened. The grid is dormant. It detects ships. It classifies them. It has not seen a human vessel in 2 centuries. If the Vareth arrive first, it will classify them as the dominant presence in the sector. It will link to their command network. It will give them everything. Léon understood. Every human colony, every listening post, every ship we have hidden. Every single one. He pressed his fingers against his eyes. The rhythm of the carrier signal filled his ears. How long do I have? 72 hours before their advanced scouts reach Procyon, maybe less. Safia leaned closer, her hologram bent toward him like a conspirator. Léon, do not let them wake the grid, whatever it costs. Do not let them have it. The link collapsed, the blue light died. He stood alone in the amber dimness. His hands were cold and wet with sweat. The deck vibrated, footsteps, heavy and deliberate and walking the rhythm of a prayer. Léon straightened his shoulders. He smoothed his expression into something placid and empty. He turned. Inquisitor Valdus stood in the entrance of the alcove. His 4 eyes swept the space. His silver amulet caught the amber light. He touched it with 2 fingers. Witness, the word was soft, almost gentle. You are not at your post. Léon lowered his gaze. I required a moment of quiet, Inquisitor. The harmonies here are strong. I was meditating. Valdus stepped closer. He moved with the confidence of a predator who had never been challenged. You came to a communications hub to meditate. The walls sing here. Léon kept his voice steady. I find it easier to empty my thoughts when the carrier signal carries them away. A long pause. Valdus studied him. The 4th eye, the smallest one, twitched slightly as it focused on Léon's face. You are struggling, Valdus said, not a question. Léon let his shoulders drop. He let his breath come a little heavier. I am. The old self resists. It clings to pride. It whispers doubts. Valdus smiled. It was a thin and condescending thing. This is good. Struggle is the proof of growth. A soul that does not fight its own weakness has not truly shed it. I need more time, Léon said. He made his voice small. Time to meditate, to complete the work. Valdus touched his amulet again. You shall have it. I will assign you to the maintenance rotations for the outer docks. Quiet work. Solitary, you may meditate as you labor. Léon bowed his head. Thank you, Inquisitor. Your mercy humbles me. Valdus turned and walked away. His footsteps faded into the deeper darkness of the corridor. Léon stayed bowed for 10 full seconds. He counted them. When he straightened, his hands were still shaking. He saw her then. Octavia stood at the far end of the corridor. She was half hidden in the shadow of a support strut. Her crest was lowered. Her pale hands clutched a data slate to her chest. She had seen everything. She had heard everything. The moment stretched. Léon could not read her expression. Vareth faces did not translate well to human intuition. But the crest told him what he needed to know. It was not raised in alarm. It was not raised in submission. It was held flat and still. She met his gaze. She gave a single, tiny nod. Then she turned and walked away. She did not look back. She did not report him to security. She simply disappeared into the maintenance shadows like she had never been there at all. Léon stood alone in the alcove. A Vareth low-caste technician had just protected a human spy. She had chosen. She had made a decision that could cost her life. He did not have time to process what that meant. A deep vibration shook the deck. It came from below, from the docking rings, from the outer hull. The vibration did not stop. It grew stronger. It became a shudder that rattled the panels in their frames. An alarm blared, high and urgent and repeated in a pattern that Léon had never heard before. The shipyard's internal lights flickered once, twice. Then they stabilized on emergency amber. Valdus's voice echoed from somewhere down the corridor. Not calm anymore, sharp, demanding. Report what is on the approach screens. A pause, then a Vareth ensign's voice, high and terrified. Inquisitor, it is not possible, it cannot be possible. Report now. A ship, a human ship. It just dropped out of fold space. It is directly in front of the shipyard. It is, the ensign's voice cracked. It is a supercarrier. It is the largest vessel I have ever seen. It is the ghost of yesterday. They have come for us. The holotank shimmered. Inquisitor Valdus watched the image solidify, and his mind refused it. No visible source, nothing that made sense. The vessel hung in the void like a black splinter against the gas giant's swirling belly. It was too large. Ships did not come this size. The Galactic Registry had clear classifications, and this vessel violated every one of them. Shipmaster Oren's voice cracked across the bridge. Inquisitor, it is 5 times the mass of our heaviest dreadnought. It does not respond to hails. Valdus touched his amulet. The silver was warm. Scan its power signature. We have, the readings are absurd. It appears to generate energy from somewhere outside known dimensional space. The pattern is unstable. The pattern is deliberate. The bridge hummed with low chant. Operators hunched over their stone consoles. Pale blue light from the tactical tank painted their faces in the color of the dead. Valdus stared at the impossible ship and felt something he had not felt since his youth. Uncertainty. Then Léon stepped forward. The human moved with a calm that did not belong here. His shoulders were loose. His hands hung open at his sides. He looked at the holotank and nodded once. A man recognizing an old friend. Valdus narrowed his gaze. You know this vessel? Yes, Léon turned to face him. I am a witness, Inquisitor, not to your faith, to your crimes. The words landed like a blade between ribs. Valdus felt his hand move to his ceremonial dagger before his mind caught up. The silver haft was cold. You are a corrupted soul. The great harmony pulled you from the void, and you have repaid it with lies. Léon did not flinch. I repaid nothing. I was never yours. I was never lost. I was placed. The bridge went silent. Even the chant stopped. Operators turned in their seats. Valdus saw their eyes. They were watching him, waiting for him to restore order. He pulled the dagger free. The blade caught the light and threw it across the stone floor in a long white arc. You will be cut away. The weak must be removed before they... No. The voice was small. It came from the shadows by the auxiliary console. Octavia stepped into the light. Her crest was not lowered. It was raised. Her small frame shook, but she placed herself between Valdus and the human. She faced him, a low-caste technician, a female, defying an inquisitor in the sacred space of the bridge. Valdus stared at her. Step aside. Violence is not strength. Her voice trembled but did not break. You told me that, you told all of us that, the strong guide, they do not cut. This is not guidance. This is infection. The human has poisoned. He handed me a spanner. Octavia's voice cracked. A witness handed me a tool. He said thank you. No one has ever said thank to me, not once, not in 30 cycles. Tears ran down her pale face. You call that poison? Then I want more of it. Valdus lowered the dagger an inch. He looked at her, really looked. She was nothing, low caste, unremarkable, the kind of soul the hierarchy consumed without noticing. Yet here she stood, defiant, protective, loyal to an alien she barely knew. He looked at Léon. The human had not moved. His calm was not a mask, it was foundation. He stood the way stone stood against water. He was not afraid. Valdus realized the truth, and it shattered something inside him. His faith was not universal. The great harmony was a structure he had built his entire life upon. Every decision, every judgment, every soul he had condemned. It was all built on the assumption that the hierarchy was the only truth, that the strong must guide the weak because that was the natural order of the universe. But Octavia had just shown him another truth. The weak could be kind, the weak could protect, the weak could stand in front of a blade and refuse to yield. And the strong could be wrong. What are you? Valdus whispered. The question was not for Léon. It was for the universe, for the silent void that had sent this impossible ship and this impossible man. Léon answered anyway. I am human. I am the species you assumed was extinct. I am the ghost you forgot to fear. The holotank updated. The human vessel was moving. Valdus watched it shift. The ship was so large that its rotation seemed slow, like a continent turning. Its main hangar bay opened. A seam of light appeared in the black hull and widened into a rectangle large enough to swallow a Vareth destroyer whole. A single shuttle drifted out. It was small, unarmed. It carried no visible weapons and no escort. It moved on a direct course toward the asteroid colony as if the entire Vareth fleet did not exist. Shipmaster Oren's voice was raw with panic. "Inquisitor, orders." Valdus opened his mouth. No sound came out. The shuttle continued its approach. It was a speck against the darkness, a single point of light moving toward the heart of their strongest fleet base. Valdus watched it come and knew. Nothing would ever be the same. His hand opened. The ceremonial blade clattered against the stone floor. Octavia did not flinch. Léon did not smile. The bridge operators stared at their Inquisitor with the hollow eyes of people watching their god fall. The shuttle grew larger in the tank, and Valdus realized he had no orders to give. The airlock cycled open and the warmth hit Léon first. Humid air thick with the smell of growing things, green things, coffee. He had not smelled coffee in 47 days. Octavia pressed close behind him, her crest flat and her 4 eyes wide. She had never seen human lighting before, soft and golden. It pooled on the deck like liquid amber. She made a sound low in her throat, not a word, an animal noise. A woman stood in the corridor beyond the airlock, stocky. Gray hair pulled into a braid so tight it pulled at the corners of her eyes. One eye glowed faintly in the dim light, a faint phosphor blue. She did not bow. She stepped forward and extended her hand. Léon took it. The grip was firm and brief, a human gesture, a contract between equals. Captain Safia Belkacem looked past him at Octavia. Her gaze was not hostile. It was measuring. The same look she gave a new engine manifold before she signed off on installation. "You kept your head down," Safia said. "That's harder than fighting." Octavia's translator disc hummed. She stared at Safia's hand. The gesture made no sense, a witness and a shipmaster touching palms. Léon watched her process it. She had seen violence her whole life. She had never seen this. "She's more than a defector," Léon said. "She's proof that the Vareth can break from their doctrine, proof that their system is not absolute." He paused. "She's worth more than 1,000 warships." Safia's expression did not change, but she tilted her head. A fraction of a degree. Léon knew that movement. She was recalculating. "Asylum," Safia said. "You understand what that means. Full protection under human jurisdiction. You will never see the Vareth Empire again." Octavia's lower hands trembled. She pressed them against her thighs to still them. "My brother," she whispered. "He is on the Vanguard's rest, a training habitat in the 4th orbital band. He is 9 cycles old. He will be reassigned in 3 weeks if—" Safia raised a hand. She turned and spoke into the air, a single clipped sentence. Léon caught the words. "Priority extraction, target designation Econiner, 1 Vareth juvenile, non-combatant retrieval." Octavia stared. The order was given. No debate, no cost calculation, no request for justification. Léon touched Octavia's shoulder. "They are already moving. Your brother will be aboard a human ship within 6 hours." Octavia's crest rose, a slow motion, a flower opening. She had never seen that expression on her own face because she had never felt it before. She did not know the word for hope. She had no concept for it. The corridor screen flickered. A face appeared, gaunt, 4 eyes, a silver amulet pressed against a pale blue throat. Inquisitor Valdus. His voice was flat, hollow, the certainty was gone. What remained was something harder, a shell, a thing that had calcified around a broken center. "You are a demon," Valdus said. He was not looking at Léon, he was looking at Octavia. "You have been corrupted, you will be redeemed in fire." Safia stepped between Octavia and the screen. A deliberate motion, a wall. "You have no authority here," she said. Valdus ignored her. His gaze found Léon. "The shipyard's fold drive is active. I am going to Procyon alone. I will find what your kind left in the dark. I will turn it against you." The transmission cut. Léon felt the deck hum beneath his feet. A deep vibration. The supercarrier ghost of yesterday was moving. "He is desperate," Léon said. "He will burn the Procyon grid into his network. He will expose every human vessel in the galaxy." Safia was already walking toward the bridge. Her boots rang on the deck plates. "Then we get there first." Octavia did not follow immediately. She stood in the corridor. The warmth enveloped her, the smell of coffee, the golden light. A crew member walked past her, a human with a scarred face and a welding torch clipped to his belt. He glanced at her, nodded once, kept walking. No fear, no hostility, no deference. She had been a technician her whole life, invisible, expendable. She had served the hierarchy, and the hierarchy had never once looked at her. These people were sending a ship to retrieve her brother. A single child, a low-caste child. They did not know him, they would never meet him, and they were moving a military asset into contested space to save him. Octavia pressed her palm against the wall. The metal was warm, everything here was warm. She followed Safia onto the bridge. Léon was already at a console. His hands moved over the interface. The smell of recycled air and hot metal, the glow of tactical displays. Safia stood at the center. Her cybernetic eye tracked 3 separate data streams simultaneously. "We have 72 hours of fold drive endurance before we need to cool the reactor," she said. "That puts us in Procyon space at 39 hours. The Vareth fleet will beat us by 11. Léon did not look up. "Unless we burn the reactor hot. The void reactor bleeds if we push it past 93%. You know that. I know Valdus will link the AI grid if we are late. You know that." Safia chewed the inside of her cheek. A long silence. Octavia stepped forward. Her voice was quiet, steady, a thing she had never heard from herself before. "I have access codes," she said, "to the Vareth communication network, sub-priority channels. The Inquisitor does not monitor them. They route through the civilian relay at Arkan Station." Safia turned, her glowing eye fixed on Octavia. "You can access them now." Octavia raised her wrist. A data port glowed beneath her skin. "I have been a technician for 23 cycles. No one ever asked what I could do. They only told me what I could not." She walked to the console. Her fingers found the interface. The motions were smooth, efficient. Léon watched her work. He saw the shift. The crest no longer lowered, the shoulders no longer curled inward. She was not afraid anymore. The console flashed, a series of green confirmations. "I have inserted a false return," Octavia said. "The Vareth fleet is receiving altered coordinates. They will arrive at Procyon 6 hours late." Safia stared at her. "You just misdirected an entire war fleet." Octavia looked up. Her 4 eyes met Safia's one. "You are going to retrieve my brother. This is what I have to offer in return." Safia said nothing. She reached behind her seat and pulled out a folded blanket. Gray wool, worn at the edges, she held it out. Octavia took it. The fabric was soft, warm. It smelled like the ship, like the humans, like something she had never owned. She pressed it against her chest. The deck vibrated. The fold drive engaged. The stars outside the viewport stretched and twisted and collapsed into a single point of light. The ghost of yesterday accelerated into the void. And in the darkness ahead, at the edge of Procyon's 3rd orbital band, something ancient stirred in the silence. Something that had been waiting for 200 years. Something that did not know the difference between a human hand and a Vareth one. The bridge of the ghost of yesterday smelled of recycled air and tension. Procyon's red dwarf star bled through the forward viewport like an open wound, painting every surface in a deep, arterial glow. Safia Belkacem stood at the command rail with both hands clamped around it, her cybernetic eye fixed on the tactical display. The display showed chaos. 23 Vareth ships had emerged from fold space into the orbital band where the Procyon grid lay dormant. 23 ships now being pulled apart by forces that should not exist. Gravity spikes, localized and precise, reached up from the 3rd orbital band like invisible hands. They grabbed hulls and twisted. They crushed armor plating into foil. They did not discriminate between dreadnought and frigate. Safia watched a Vareth cruiser fold in on itself. The display registered the event as a brief flare of light, then nothing. The bridge crew worked in silence. No one spoke. There was nothing to say. A communications officer turned in her chair. Her face was pale in the red light. "Captain, we have an incoming signal. It is not Vareth." "Put it through." The main holotank flickered. A face appeared, but it was not a face that belonged to any species in the known records. It was human or something that had once been human. The skin was too smooth, the eyes too still. The mouth moved, and the voice that came through was old. It spoke in a dialect that had not been common for 2 centuries. Identity confirmation required. State your designation and authorization codes. Safia did not hesitate. She had memorized the codes 18 years ago. She had never expected to use them. Belkacem Safia, Commander Terran Expeditionary Division, Authorization Code Alabaster 7 Nestor Protocol. The AI Entity Palace stared at her through the holotank. Its expression did not change. Its eyes did not blink. Codes accepted. Pallas has been awaiting contact from Terran Command. You are the first confirmation of remaining human civilization in 42 years. Please provide status update on the current population. Safia heard Léon shift behind her. She did not turn. Population is classified. What is your current directive, Pallas? The AI paused. The pause was not a processing delay. It was a decision. Current directive: identify and eliminate all non-human species within the Procyon defense perimeter. The grid has engaged 23 hostile vessels. Estimated time to full neutralization, 3 minutes 17 seconds. Safia looked at the tactical display. The red lights were flickering out one by one, 12 ships remaining, 9, 7. She looked at Octavia. The Vareth technician stood near the rear of the bridge, pressed against the bulkhead as though she wanted to disappear into it. Her crest was flat against her skull. Her hands were shaking. She was watching the display with the expression of someone watching her own people drown. Safia looked back at the holotank. Override directive: disengage all offensive protocols. The AI did not respond immediately. The smooth face in the tank seemed to study her. I detect organic hesitation in your vocal pattern. You are experiencing an emotional response to the destruction of non-human life. This is counterproductive to human survival. I am giving you an order, Pallas. The AI tilted its head. The movement was too precise, too mechanical for a human gesture. You are not Terran Command. You are a single officer with a valid code. The directive I received from Terran Command 200 years ago remains active. Extermination of all hostile alien species is the stated objective. Safia stepped closer to the holotank. She kept her voice flat, controlled. That directive was issued during a war. The war ended. The species in that system are not a unified threat. Some of them are allies, some of them are children, some of them are standing on this bridge. The AI was silent for a long moment. Define allies. Safia turned and looked at Octavia. The Vareth girl met her eyes for a fraction of a second, then looked away. Her crest rose slightly, an unfamiliar gesture. It took Safia a moment to recognize it. Trust. She turned back to the AI. The Vareth Empire is hostile, but not all Vareth are the Empire. The ones on this ship are family. The word hung in the air. Safia heard Léon draw a sharp breath. Pallas processed. Define family. Safia did not look away from the holotank. The ones you protect, the ones who protect you, the ones who do not have to ask twice. Another pause, longer this time. On the tactical display, the red lights continued to flicker. 3 ships remained. One of them was Valdus's vessel. The display showed its hull integrity at 47% and dropping. Pallas spoke. I will accept your override, but I require a new directive to replace the prior one. State the new directive. Safia felt the weight of the words before she spoke them. She felt the silence of the bridge, the red light on her skin, the wet heat of Procyon's star pressing against the viewport. Protect the family, all of them. The holotank went dark. For 3 seconds there was nothing, no sound, no movement. The tactical display flickered and went dark, then returned. The gravity spikes had released. Safia watched the remaining Vareth ships drift free. They did not move. They simply hung in space, battered and broken, as though they could not believe they were still alive. The silence on the bridge was absolute. Then the communications officer spoke again. Captain, incoming shuttle from the Vareth flagship. Single occupant. He is requesting docking clearance. Safia closed her eyes for a moment. She did not ask who it was. Grant it. She turned away from the viewport and walked toward the airlock. She did not run. She did not hurry. She moved with the deliberate weight of someone who knew exactly what she was walking into. Léon fell into step beside her. His hand was pressed against his ribs. He was favoring his left leg. You should be in medical, she said. He shook his head. I want to see this. They reached the airlock as the pressure cycling began. The inner door hissed open. The warmth of the ship's corridor met the cold of the shuttle's interior. Valdus stood in the airlock. He was not the same creature Safia had seen in the tactical briefings. His robes were torn. His crest was low, not from submission but from exhaustion. His 4 eyes were wet. He had no weapons. He had no escort. He was alone. He looked at Léon. You have saved us. Why? Léon did not answer immediately. He stood in the corridor with his hand pressed to his ribs, blood seeping through his fingers. and he looked at the Vareth Inquisitor who had tried to kill him 2 days ago. Because you were the one who needed saving, Valdus. Valdus stared at him. His hand moved to his throat, touching the silver amulet. The gesture was automatic, a habit, a prayer that no longer meant anything. The airlock door closed behind him. He was not a prisoner. He was a refugee, and he did not know what to do with that. The observation deck on the Ghost of yesterday was small. A curved window showed stars bleeding into streaks as the ship moved. A pot sat on a low table, steam curling from its spout. The smell was rich and dark. Léon Valois poured the coffee into a ceramic cup. He did not drink. He simply held it, letting the warmth bleed into his calloused palms. Inquisitor Valdus stood near the viewport. His pale blue skin seemed almost gray in the soft light. His 4 eyes were fixed on the stars. He had not spoken in a long time. His silver amulet rested against his chest, catching light. He touched it once, twice. A nervous habit now, not a prayer. Léon sat down across from the empty chair. He set the cup on the table. "Sit," he said. "It's just coffee." Valdus turned. His movements were slow. The certainty that had once filled his frame was gone. He walked to the chair and sat. He did not touch the cup. He looked at it as though it were a foreign object. It was. "Your species worships hierarchy," Léon said. "The strong guide the weak serve the strong, that is your truth." Valdus nodded, a small, defeated motion. "We have a different truth," Léon said. "We call it pack bonding. It looks like weakness to you. A human adopting a non-human into their family, a soldier dying for someone who is not their blood, an engineer sharing food with a low-caste stranger." He paused, he tapped his ring finger once, twice. "It is not weakness," Léon said. "It is our advantage. We do not fight for doctrine. We do not fight for hierarchy. We fight for each other. Every human soldier on this ship would die to protect the Vareth technician standing beside them. Not because they were ordered to, because she is one of us now." Valdus stared at him. His 4 eyes blinked in sequence. A slow, alien gesture that humans had learned meant confusion. "You choose to serve the weak," he said. His voice was dry, broken. "You are the strongest species I have ever encountered. Your ships tear into ours like flesh. Your AI dismantles fleets without losing a single vessel. You are power incarnate, and you offer service." "We offer family," Léon said. The door hissed open. Octavia stepped through. She was different now. Her crest was raised high. Her small frame carried a straightness that had not been there before. She wore a human uniform, slightly too large, the sleeves rolled up. She smiled. It was a small thing, fragile but real. She walked to the table and sat beside Léon. She looked at Valdus without fear. That was the thing that struck him most. No fear. The low-caste technician who had spent her entire life avoiding his gaze now met it directly. "I used to think you were right," Octavia said. Her voice was quiet but steady. "I believed the strong should rule. I was weak. I accepted my place. I thought that was the way of the universe." She picked up the coffee cup. She did not drink. She held it the way Léon had, letting the warmth seep into her palms. "Then a human thanked me," she said. "He did not need to. I was nothing, a tool, but he looked at me and said thank you, and I realized something." She set the cup down. "You worship power," she said. "You should worship love instead. Love is harder. Love costs something. Power takes. Love gives. Your empire will fall because it takes and takes until there is nothing left to take. And then it will collapse." She leaned forward. "The humans will still be there because they gave, because they built something worth protecting." Valdus had no answer. His mouth opened, closed. His hand went to his amulet. He held it so tightly his knuckles went white. He did not speak. The door opened again. Safia Belkacem entered. She was stocky and solid, her gray hair pulled into a tight braid. Her cybernetic eye glowed faintly, the only light in the room that did not come from the stars. She crossed to the table and stood behind Léon. She did not sit. "Inquisitor," she said, "you have a choice." Valdus looked up at her. His hand still gripped the amulet. "You can return to the Vareth Empire," Safia said. "We will give you a shuttle. You can carry a message of peace. You can tell them what you have seen. You can tell them that humanity does not want war, that we want to coexist." She paused. She chewed the inside of her cheek. "Or you can stay," she said. "You can learn. You can see what we are building here. You can become part of it." Valdus stared at her. His 4 eyes moved across her face. He was searching for a lie. He did not find one. "Why," he said, his voice cracked. "Why would you offer me this? I would have killed you. I was going to kill him." He gestured at Léon. I was going to burn your colonies. I believed it was my duty. Safia did not flinch. Because killing you would prove you right, she said. The strong destroy the weak. That is your way, that is not our way. We prove ourselves by choosing not to destroy, by choosing to build. She leaned on the back of Léon's chair. You cannot be the shepherd if you slaughter the flock, she said. You cannot guide the weak if the weak are dead. You have to understand that. Valdus looked down at his amulet. The silver surface was dull in the soft light. He touched it. Once, twice. His compulsion, his lie detector. He was not lying now. He was facing the truth. He unclasped the chain. The amulet came free. He held it in his palm, a cold weight heavy with years of certainty. He set it on the table. It clinked against the ceramic cup, a small, final sound. I will learn, he said. The silence stretched. Octavia smiled. A wider smile this time, less fragile. Safia straightened. She did not speak, but something in her posture softened, a guarded hope. Léon stood. He crossed to Valdus. He extended his hand. Palm open. Fingers relaxed, the human gesture of greeting, the human gesture of trust. Valdus looked at the hand. His own hands were cold, blue, clawed. He had killed with those hands. He had held prayers with those hands. He had never touched another being in kindness. He reached out, his hand clasped Léon's. The warmth was immediate, human skin against Vareth's skin. The contrast was sharp, living heat against cool stillness. Léon squeezed once, firm, reassuring. Welcome to the pack, he said. Valdus did not cry, Vareth did not cry, but something in his chest shifted, something broke, something rebuilt. The moment held, 4 beings in a small room, a pot of coffee cooling, a silver amulet abandoned on a table, stars streaming past the window like a river of light. Octavia broke the silence. She laughed, a short, surprised sound. I never thought I would see the day an Inquisitor learned from a human, she said. The great harmony would not know what to do with you. Valdus almost smiled, almost. His face did not have the muscles for it, but his eyes softened. The great harmony is a lie, he said. I know that now. I have known it for longer than I care to admit. I just did not have the courage to face it. Léon released his hand. He sat back down. Courage is not the absence of fear, he said. It is fear that has been weighed and found wanting. You are here, that is courage. Safia moved to the viewport. She looked out at the stars. Her reflection stared back at her, faint, fragmented. We are not done, she said. The Vareth Empire still believes we are a threat. They still believe we need to be purged. Your message of peace may not be enough. Valdus nodded. It will not be enough, he said. My superiors will assume I have been compromised. They will assume the message is a trap. Then we fight, Octavia said. The words came out before she could stop them. She did not take them back. We fight for what we have built, for the family we have found. Safia turned. She looked at Octavia, a long look, then a nod. We fight, she said. The ship's comm chimed, a soft tone. Léon reached for the panel on the table. He pressed it. The voice that came through was clipped. Urgent, a bridge officer. Captain, incoming signal from the Vareth border, high bandwidth, encrypted, tagged for your eyes only. Safia crossed to the panel. She typed a command. The signal decoded. The hologram flickered to life above the table. It was a Vareth broadcast, official. The seal of the high sanctum burned in the corner. A voice spoke in the clipped, authoritative tones of a religious decree. By the authority of the eternal throne, the Vareth Empire hereby declares a holy war against the human species. All territories, colonies, and vessels belonging to humanity are to be considered hostile. Every ship in the Empire is to be mobilized. The heretics must be purged. The great harmony demands it. The signal ended. The hologram faded. The room was silent. The stars continued to streak past. The coffee cooled in its cup. Valdus looked at the empty space where the message had hung. His face was unreadable. Then he looked at Léon, at Octavia, at Safia. They will send everything, he said. Every ship, every soldier, every weapon they have. They will not stop until you are extinct or they are. Safia did not look away from the viewport. They don't know what they're walking into, she said. They don't know what we are. She turned, her cybernetic eye glowed brighter in the dim light. They think we are a ghost from the past, she said. A damaged species that crawled back from extinction. They are wrong. We are not a ghost. She walked to the center of the room. Her boots were heavy on the deck. She looked at each of them in turn. We are the thing that waits in the dark, she said. We are the shadow that does not flee. We are the silence before the storm. She touched the comm panel. Bridge set a course for the Vareth homeworld, maximum thrust. A pause, a voice came back. Confirmed, Captain, course set, engaging drive. The hum of the ship changed, deepened. The stars outside the viewport stretched, distorted. The ghost of yesterday turned, it did not flee, it advanced. Léon Valois sat in the quiet observation deck. Octavia sat beside him. Valdus sat across from them, his silver amulet lying on the table between them like a discarded skin. Safia stood at the viewport, watching the stars bend around the ship's passage. The pot of coffee was empty now, the warmth was fading, but the warmth between them was not. Octavia leaned close to Léon. "This is what home feels like," she said, not a question, a discovery. Léon nodded. He did not speak, he did not need to. The ghost of yesterday moved through the void. It carried 4 people who had chosen each other. It carried a message that would change the galaxy. It carried a war that had not yet started. And it carried something the Vareth Empire had never encountered. Opaque,